Hey, how's it going? Just want to record a little demo on how to get Scroll Viewer up and running from scratch. We will start by cloning the repository. So let's do that right now. There, no, my GitHub desktop doesn't like that because I already have it downloaded. Let's just do it from here. CD documents, GitHub. Okay. Git. Okay. So CD into scroll. Viewer demo, we get clone. As this clones, I'm going to open a new VS Code window. Actually, no, let's not do VS Code, just to keep things simple. So we have clone scroll viewer, let's CD into it. Git check out dev, check out the dev branch, that's got all my recent developments on it. And now we've got plenty of nice stuff here. Let's start by running the client. So cd client ls. We have this thing here called simple core server. That's just a simple Python HTTP server. I don't believe it has any external requirements. Let's see. No, just HTTP server. So just requires the Python standard library. We're going to do Python simple core server, and now it's running. You'll notice here at the bottom of the file, I printed out the file. You notice at the bottom it's on port 8001. So let's go there on our browser. Localhost 8001. Awesome. And now we have the scroll viewer client up and running, which is splendid. However, this is only half the picture. You load all of your stuff from the server. So now let's get the server going. The server is a bit more involved. Let's make a new, we're going to leave the client running in the background just so it's always running and we can use it as we continue. We'll open a new tab in our terminal. We'll cd to documents, to GitHub, to scroll viewer demo, and then cd again into the actual repository. So just cd back into the repository. And now we're going to go into the server. So cd into the server. And then we're going to run app.py. Here, let's actually just look at app.py here because it has a lot of dependencies. I don't have a requirements txt file or anything like that, unfortunately. I'm using just the normal versions of everything. I'm using Python 3.10, and then just whatever I happen to have installed. I don't think it's install specific or dependent, but all of these libraries are used in some way, shape, or form. We're going to close that. And then there's a couple of things that we're going to need to do, actually, before we run our server. The first thing you're going to have to do is edit your config file. So if we ls here, you see this config.json. Let's open that in VS Code, just code config.json. And we get something that looks like this. So these first three are, so this is a config, which is a list of different volumes that you can load. These top three, just keep them how they are. These are preloaded defaults. But this bottom one, which I'm calling Campfire, is one that we actually care about. This is an actual scroll from the Ash to Text server. You can see this source URL. In this case, it's scroll2, the 88 kev scan. And I'm saving it to a bunch of different directories. This first directory is the raw data itself. And then these next three directories, 1 JPEG, 2 JPEG, 16 JPEG, are JPEG versions of the same thing. And the 1 JPEG is same size as the TIFF. 2 JPEG is half the size. 16 JPEG is 16 times smaller on one dimension. So 16 squared times smaller in 2 dimensions. But we need to adjust this to be the data that we want. Since we're downloading this data from scratch, these are the dimensions. This last one is the Z dimension, and it'll only download as many layers as you specify. I'm going to keep this at, let's do 100. So we're only going to download 100 files. We're only going to download the first 100 layers. And I'm also going to change the directory here as well. So I'm going to just append a demo to this. And again, this can be whatever you want. Change these values to suit your needs and where you want to store these files on your computer. It will automatically get downloaded. We'll have to do one other configuration step first, but that's about it. So the other thing we have to do here is we have to actually tell the downloader what our username and password is for the Ash to Text server. So we're going to save our changes to the config.json file. We'll close these and then close that as well. We're actually going to go up a directory here. So we're just in the scroll viewer root directory. We're going to code, we're going to make a new file called config.py. In this case, I'm doing it in VS Code, but you can do it in anything. This is just going to be a very simple Python file that we import that specifies the username and password for the server. So username equals your username, and then password equals the password. I'm not going to show them on the video because I don't know who I'm going to, share this video out. I might make it public at some point, so I'm going to move my thing off screen. Make sure your file looks like this. I'm going to move mine off screen. I'm going to change it to the real username and password. And then I'm going to save it, and then I'm going to close it all off screen so you don't see the correct username and password. Awesome. So now we've set up our configs, and now let's run the server. Again, be sure you've installed all those dependencies in app.py, and then you should be good to go. So we're going to do that by running it via Flask. And to run it via Flask, the command is a little bit more involved. Not really. It's just flask -app. Or actually, no, it's python -m flask -app. Wait, sorry. Usually I run this out of VS Code itself. Yeah, Flask and then -app and then server/app.py. Run and then --no -debugger -no -reload -p and then 5001. This last one is important, 5001. These other two I'm just including because I usually include them in my launch JSON file. But run the server using this Flask command, hit enter, and then you should get a printout that things are running when it starts. I believe. I usually don't run it from the command line, but yep, no, there it is. So now we have our client running and we have our server running on port 5001. Okay, so now we're going to connect the client to the server. Click on this About pane. I recommend opening your debug console on your browser and pulling up the network tab so you can see it attempt to connect. And then this here, it populates with 5000. I'm going to hit backspace. I'm going to wait a second for the request to 500 to fail. And then I'm going to press 1 to go to localhost 5001. It automatically sends a request and the timeout is still kind of long. So I recommend backspace to 500, wait a second, and then enter the 1. And when you do that, you should get a successful 200 request on the right there. Yes, let's do that again, actually. Yeah. Okay, that's good. Usually, yeah, here we go. So this dropdown then populates with all these different things. So there's random volume, line ball, and then campfire. But again, you can call this anything. You can specify any URL on the server, and it'll work. We're going to start by just loading a random volume. So go to your dropdown, select something other than random volume, then switch back to random volume. You can choose your dimensions. And then once you choose your dimensions, I don't know, let's do that. Scroll down here and click load. And there you go. Here's a random volume of these dimensions. This is awesome. This has everything nice and working. Now let's actually load our campfire. So this is the size of our request. I'm going to make it 100 by 100 by 100. We're going to scroll down here and click load. And now it's going to spend some time downloading those files. So we go back to our server here, and you can see we get this request, checking if the data exists in our thing. It says it does not exist, so it starts downloading. Let's go to that file and actually watch it get downloaded over time. Scroll drive. Yeah, first 50, full. It'll take some time. It does them weird. But yeah, I mean it takes a while, right? Because it's downloading like several gigabytes of stuff. All right, so there it's downloaded one file. There's another. Again, it does it in these weird batches. And this is the raw, uncompressed scroll data. So I'm going to pause the video here. We're going to wait for all these files to download. The client still thinks it's loading, and it is. But I'm just going to skip ahead to once all these files have downloaded. Okay, it's been a few minutes. All the files have downloaded. We can look here. You can see we have 0 all the way up through 99, so exactly 100. If we go back to our server script, it actually has an error at the end. I've known about this for a long time. No big deal. Just click the load button again. It does that at the end of downloading, and I just never got around to fixing it. Now what it's going to do is it's going to take your full scrolls and convert them into the 1x, 2x, and 16x size reductions. That will take a moment as well. See here it's scaling it to scale 1, 2, and 16. Yeah, so we'll wait a couple minutes for that to finish as well. Okay, so all of the conversions have happened, and our request has succeeded. So you remember we started this download and started this conversion by clicking this load, and now the volume has loaded. So as you can see, it's a 100 by 100 by 100 block located at 0, 0, 0 within the scroll. Awesome. Let's do some segmenting now. One word of caution is that for these X and Y coordinates, I'd recommend you keep them the same. There are like texture padding requirements, and I haven't worked through all of them. So keep these the same, and also keep it divisible by 10 for the segmentation algorithm. But we can go to a different location. So for example, let's keep this 100 by 100. Let's do 10 just to keep the file loading faster for the video. We can just go to a random location in the scroll, go to a random height. These are X, Y, and Z origins within the scroll. Let's click load again. And here we go. Bada bing, a bada boom. Yeah, here's just a random place. Load again. Here's another random place at that location. Fun stuff. Okay. Let's do some segmenting. I've written down a few places that I think are really good for segmenting. I'd recommend you start at these locations as well. We're going to do 200 by 200. I recommend doing all your segmentations at 200 by 200 by, we'll start at 50. We're going to set our Z origin to 25, so we're in the middle of the 100 segment deep thing that we've loaded. Okay, and then we're going to go to this location. 40, 90 on our x-axis, and 36, 37, 36, 37 on the y-axis. Click load. And here we go. You can see these nice segments here. You can see this one in the middle. The segment we want to segment has to be in the middle. You can see this little gizmo in the center. Basically, the segment has to be within that or overlapping with that. We can apply a threshold, which means we cut off a certain number, any number that's lower than that. So for example, here we cut off any number that's lower than 71 within the volume, and that creates this nice transparency. Set it to 88 for the 88. For the scroll to 88K EV scan, set your threshold to something like 88. So here we go. Looks very nice. And now set your threshold to 88, go to this location in scroll 2, and then check this, apply Sobel filter. This will actually do the segmenting math for us. Okay, jumping around in the video here a little bit as well, but be sure to also set your cutoff plane vector. This is a vector, you can see it in the middle, it's got an X, Y, and Z coordinate. You move it with these sliders or these inputs. This should point in the direction of where you want your segment to come from. In other words, it should point toward the center of the scroll. I know that the center of the scroll is in positive X, positive Y, so adjust these numbers so it's in the positive X, positive Y, roughly equivalent, and then 0 for Z. The actual magnitude, how far out it points, doesn't matter as long as you're pointing in this general direction. But the length doesn't matter. Just set it to something like 0.23, 0.25. Now we're going to click load. It's going to load the files. It's going to do all its processing. This is the server. You can see it loaded these files. Yeah, click your apply Sobel filter. Sorry, I didn't click that before cutting. But it's going to load all these files. And now you're doing all your processing. Here it's computing all the direction vectors that go into the segment. Next it's going to create a nice plot of all those direction vectors as well. Then it's going to save the file and lots of other various goodies along the way. There we go. Okay, so we go back here. We'll notice that the raw data has been darkened a little bit, and what's appeared in the middle here are these lines, which represent the actual segment of the scroll. So you can see on the right here with these this green, I believe that's the top of the segment, or kind of the where the writing should be, and then over here's the bottom. If we made this vector negative, then it would be swapped and the top of the segment would be on the left here, but we had our vector out here, so that's how it came out. All fine and dandy. This is also saved to a file. So if we go here to our file explorer, let me hop around here, let me pull it up, go to documents, we go to GitHub directory, we go to scroll viewer demo right there, right here, and then awesome. Okay, so here it is. We double click on this. You'll see here we get this mask.png. That's the actual mask of wherein our segment is valuable. And you'll notice if you look here, we can isolate some of these layers here. Yeah, that doesn't help a ton. But if we look here, yeah, you can kind of see it here. You can see this shape, and if we look at our mask, it's got a similar shape, which is swell. Okay, and then we go here to our metadata. This just contains info, the timestamp, the time this was created, the URL request we made, and then the area. I don't even know if the area is accurate. I wrote that a while ago. The rotating plot is quite fun. These are those vectors we computed. This shows the direction into the surface that we are going, and then this is another way of showing the vectors as well. And then here's the vectors when they've been interpolated and smoothed. Okay, and then we can also look at the volume data itself. So you can see here we've just got this TV static in the first layer, but as we go in, we actually see the segment data itself as well, which is awesome. And that's a segment. Pretty darn cool if you ask me. We can make a bigger segment. Let's say we do something 100, starting at 0, load. It'll create this segment just as easily for you, which is great. But these segments are quite small. So right now I'm generating a bunch of little segments together, and then I'm going to combine them next. So let's go here. It looks like that one didn't like it. Yeah, this didn't actually like it. Oh yeah, I know why. If we remove Sobel filter, load. Here, I want to make this segment for you as well. You need to make sure it's centered. So this was likely off center, I believe. We can. Yeah, and it's weird because the height's weird. We can move up a little, yeah. Doing it on the edges, it doesn't like. There are a bunch of literal edge cases here. So yeah, that loads fine and dandy. And then if we apply the Sobel filter, again, this is a lot closer to a minimum viable product than a completed product. I've been working on this for a while. The fact that the prize deadline happens to be this week is just a coincidence in many ways. I mean, I worked toward it, but there is a lot of moving parts here. And again, this is just a minimum viable product. So it's going to produce that. As it produces that, let's start talking about the GUI. So we have this great little program that we can use. Yeah, here we go. It worked perfectly. Here's our segment again. Got that nice shape. All fine and dandy. You can find it in the File Explorer again. But this is all fine and dandy, but we need a way to create a bunch of these little fragments and then combine them. And I've also written a tool for that. So let's open another tab, go to our documents, go to GitHub, go to scroll, viewer, scroll, yep. Then cd into util, and then we have a few different scripts here. Do python GUI.py. This uses pyqt as well, which is nice. And then also in this here, code GUI.py, you need to set the right directory. This should be the same directory as your config. Let me pull it up here. This directory should be, yeah, this one, not full. We want our JPEGs actually. So go to your JPEG directory with the one JPEG. Copy that path, then put it into here. Add double backslashes if you're on Windows because you gotta escape the thing or whatever, and then also, yeah, of course, have backslashes there. Okay, cool. Save this and then run it. Okay, so from util, you're actually gonna want to run this from here. So do python util / GUI.py because we have this nice cursor that we need to be able to load. Okay, so this is a GUI application to view the whole scroll. Don't resize the window, but keep it in view, of course. You can see the mouse position on the left and right. It's slow because I'm doing video encode right now. Usually it's a bit faster, but that's okay. So make our way, press W, A, S, and D to navigate. Make your way down toward the center of the scroll so we can find some good places to make some good old-fashioned segments. This red box you're seeing represents a 200 pixel by 200 pixel area, which is pretty cool. And then move your way down toward the middle of the scroll. You can see this artifact down here. Put your mouse over by the middle. Press C. That's going to tell, it's just going to save your scroll center here. And that just tells this little program, which is going to generate these segment requests for us. It just tells it, hey, point your cutoff plane in this direction. Okay, cool. Now navigate over to this nice looking segment. This is the one I've been using for all my demos and all my testing, so I recommend you start here. And we're going to put our dot cursor right on the segment. And then we're going to press space once, so I press it there. We're going to move over a little bit, press space again. Actually, and be sure your Z value is not 0. Be sure it's 50. You can move up and down on the Z axis by pressing Q and E. So move up to 50 because this creates segment requests, which are these segment requests are 100 pixels tall. They're centered on the Z value here. So make sure you're at Z50. Put your mouse on the segment, press space, move your mouse down, press space again, move your mouse down again, press space again, and so on along the segment. You can do this as many or as few times as you want, but once you're done, we can go back here, and you'll notice that each time we press space, it printed out the list of requests that correspond to the red box where we press space. So this is a whole list, It's printed as a nice Python list, so you can easily copy paste it into another script. But let's just take this last one here and copy it into Scroll Viewer. So go back to Scroll Viewer. You'll see this request URL. Paste it in here. Press load. Oh, this doesn't like it because the origin is 0. Yeah, no, that's actually fine, now that I think about it. What's the problem? Why doesn't it like this? Again, minimum viable product, not max, not finished product. Here, look load. Why is it 404ing? The server's running. Why is it 404ing? Oh, because there's a quote at the start. Yeah, be sure you don't have a quote at the start. Okay, remove the quote at the start, press load, and now it will load. Don't adjust these parameters because it'll overwrite what you pasted in here. But as it loads, it will create this segment. So what we did was we stepped through the GUI app and we generated all these segment URLs, and now we're just looking at one of them. You can see it's loading these files. It's loading about 100. It's on 83 if you look at the very left of the screen. And now it's doing the actual segmenting math. It's a bit slower this time because the segment we're creating is a little bit bigger. This will be a lot slower if you don't have a GPU or don't have an NVIDIA GPU. Almost done here. Now it's just generating the plots. Excellent. Okay, so it's generated this segment. We can see it here, and as usual, that segment has also been saved to our disk as well. So if we go here to GitHub, we go to Scroll Viewer Demo, Scroll Viewer, Segmentations, look at the most recent one. This is the segment that we just generated, and as you can see, it's this great little segment. So, okay, so we can go through, we can select where we want to make segments easily. We can make the segments even easier with minimal inputs, which is awesome. And then the last thing I'd like to show you is a little script that will actually save these segments. So we're going to stop this GUI script. Let's go to the GUI. Yeah, I pressed Control-C, so it closed. And then we're going to code, or just open in a file editor, util slash, what is it, query and register, yeah. So the idea is you make a bunch of these tiny little segments and you combine them together. And over time you can, of course, make your tiny little segments bigger and bigger. We're going to cut all of these out, these URLs, which exist as a list. And we're going to paste in that list that our little GUI app printed out. So we're going to take this one, and let's just take these as an example, and set our URLs to be equal to that. We can press F1, format. This part's optional. But format document. There are no formaters for Python files installed. Oh, okay. That's not true, but it must think that. But okay, we have this list of URLs. Be sure to save the file. This will loop through each URL, generate the segmentation, and then print out a list to the directories of all those segmentations. Eventually I'll register, I'll combine those smaller segments into larger ones together here as well, but I don't quite have that going super well yet. Okay, so go here, we do Python util slash query and register. And now this will send these requests to your server backend, and it will generate these segments, which you can see it's doing here. My heuristic for separating out the segment and not segment is not the best yet. So I recommend you go through that GUI app and you do it in a bunch of different places. Chances are not all of them will come out. But if you run this script, definitely some of them will come out. But be sure you choose nice and easily segmentable spots. I've shown you this contrived example. There are many others as well on Scroll 2 on this thing that I downloaded for this example. But again, that's another point of constant research and development for me. But that's just a quick overview. I think that this is an incredibly exciting tool. I think a lot of this is going to get further integrated together, and I think this is just really fun stuff. Please let me know if you have any issues setting this up, anybody. Bye. Oh, yeah, I should probably say I'm not going to walk through generating these segments because it's just like it is at the end. So I'm just going to stop the video here.